and when I get to a cutscene, you know, it's something that I feel like I should have earned, you know, and I really look forward to it. But if it's crap, I reserve the right to skip through it. If I can't, I get really angry.
It's frustrating when the writing, like I really want to talk about Rockstar as well. It's kind of covered, I guess, but you know, it's just they've got this wonderful engine and this wonderful looking game that's really fun, and then they just write. The writing is just. I feel not patronised, but kind of insulted in some ways by just not being able to enjoy something which could be so good. And you know what I mean? I just feel that it needs to grow up a little bit and stop swearing for no reason. There's a lot of things which I find in games which are pointless. There's a lot of repetition and pointless, and like you guys touched on with jumping between, going halfway across the town in the saboteur to talk to a guy who just sends you halfway back to talk to another guy for absolutely no reason. It's not a game which needs gameplay time extended. It's just buy a mobile phone. You know, make a mobile, just call each other. There's just a lot of repetition, a lot of things that we're seeing which constantly we see time and time again, and I think the worst one is probably the whole jump button issue. And I know there's design choices not to put a jump button in a game at times, so when I can't climb over a tiny fence, or a rock, or if I walk through a puddle even, it just totally pulls me out of the game, and I don't understand. I'm sure there's design reasons behind it, but I'm still allowed to hate it.
You shouldn't have to. If you can see something, you can see your objective, and it's just over there, and there's a puddle between you and your objective, and you have to go all the way around just to get to it because they want you to see something over here. Like, it doesn't make sense.
I don't want to dirty my dwarf boots in that puddle.
Or you're playing some massive dude with hectic guns, and you've got a wall that's a foot high, and he's just like,
I'm too tough for this. That stuff kind of bugs me. And it's just stuff that takes you out of the game. And there was a very, very famous door in Resident Evil 5, which was this massive, chained up, impossible door you can't penetrate. And on either side of the door is this little chain link fence. It's like, I could just fucking jump over that fence. I could snap that chain with my, I could just walk over it. Stuff like that. I know, like I said, I know there's reasons for all this, there's design reasons, but when I see something, when I see an objective, and I know I need to reach that objective and I need to get there, and I can't get there in the most logical, in a way that makes sense, that really pisses me off.
But it seems lazy, I think, because we're seeing it so many, like time and time again, you see that sort of thing, and you sort of, there should be by now a solution to that kind of, you know, issue. I think one of the things that have been coming up recently when I've been playing games, I was playing Assassin's Creed 2 more recently, which I was quite excited about, and one of the early cutscenes, there was a sort of a romantic scene where Ezio kind of climbs through a window and there's a woman there and she's like, oh, Ezio. And then it comes up and it says press circle, and I was like, alright, circle. And he takes off her shirt. And I was like, okay. And then it said, you know, press triangle, and I was like, alright. And he blew out a candle, and it was all very romantic pan way, you know, and that was their love scene. And I was like, why did they make me press those two buttons? Like, I'm happy to see that unfold, like, you know, by itself, you know, I don't need to be like, involved in that in some way. I respect them trying to kind of involve you in the cutscene, but that's not how I want to be involved.
I've got other things I need to be doing while that's happening.
Yeah.
That needs to be dirty.
I just mean, if you're going to be involved in the cutscene, make it something really consequential rather than taking something.
And what about the kicking the baby legs at the start? Like,
All that.
It didn't continue through. Quick time events are obviously, you know, they're a big thing of this last decade. The only people who get it right are ones, I think, are developers who let you enjoy what the reward is for that quick time event. And obviously God of War did it well, because you do your quick time event, it feels like you're actually achieving something, because if you fail, you know, it starts again. You go back, you fall off, you get hit, and then it lets you enjoy what you've done. And now when obviously it's become a very popular mechanic, and you see it in games, and you just constantly, all you're focusing about is pushing the giant buttons, which are getting bigger and bigger and bigger and more intense and flashing, and you miss all the cool shit. And I like being able to enjoy a cutscene, and I like a cutscene not to be cooler than the gameplay in many ways. You know, especially when we have such interesting technology now, and I'm playing this amazing chase scene, and I get right to a really cool point where I'm meant to bash a guy's head in, or you know, just have a really exciting moment, and then everything, all the control's taken away from me. Not even a little bit of control is given to me, and I can't do it. And that's why I love Uncharted 2 so much, because even though there's all those little points where, yeah, you've really only got a tiny bit of control. You're just slightly pushing to the left and right, slightly pushing forward, and you hit a jump, and you do a massive jump, and obviously it's not the same jump that you would normally do in a normal animation, but it suits it there. Even though you're given that little bit of control, it makes it a massive difference, and it makes it much more exciting. And yeah, I want to do the cool stuff. Let me do the cool stuff. It's my game.
Another thing that really kind of annoys me, and this one's I've kind of argued with people over this, because this is one of those issues where you sort of think, well, you know, if you fix it, won't that affect gameplay in sort of a negative way? But I really don't like it when a game doesn't you don't get consequences for killing people of your own faction or attempting to kill them. You know, there's sort of games where, you know, like in Call of Duty, obviously, if you hit too many of your own people, you get that friendly fire will not be tolerated. You start from a new checkpoint, and that's a consequence for, you know, trying to murder too many people on your own side. But you know, I was playing Avatar recently, and I was just sort of going through weapons and I was testing them out. I'd just been given this epic long quest from some woman, and I just got the flamethrower, so I tested it out on her. And held it there for about 10 seconds. It was just flaming. And you know, that woman should have been barbecued by the end of it, but she was just standing there. And she was like, what's up? You know? That woman should have been dead, and I should have paid the price for that, because she was like, you know, the manager of my whole thing. But then somebody was like, well, if you're going to have her actually die in the story, then that would have to be some whole effective thing, and they would have to make that.
I really liked it in Left 4 Dead when if you're playing offline, you shoot your teammates, and you shoot them enough times, you shoot them a couple of times, like, what's going on? Shoot them a whole bunch of times, like, alright, it's on. I like that. I like that too. I like to be able for it to feel real when it breaks the game for me.
It does. When it takes anything that takes you out of the game because, you know, something should happen and it doesn't.
I guess bigger picture stuff. I don't like the mediocrity, as Jason mentioned as well. I don't like the less risk. And this decade has been in many ways very exciting with bringing new people into gaming. It's been the decade for non-gamers, I really think, as well, to come in, and casual's been on the rise, and people who had never gamed before are calling themselves gamers, and that all removes the stigma that gaming is something you do on a Sunday, you know, without telling anyone. That's all good, but I don't like the updates, you know, like the same game with a few extra, you know, how many we've had 11 rhythm games now, I think, and they've only been out for 2 years. It's just like bam, 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 and not really many of them are changing things. And I just, yeah, it's been a decade. It's coming to a less risk kind of decade, and that's sad. And maybe that's a subject of the economic climate, or maybe it's just people going with safe bets. Like Modern Warfare 2 is a safe bet, and it will do well. But I want more psychonauts, you know, I want more really interesting trivia stuff, and I don't want that to have to be a downloadable game that I can only play for a couple of hours.
Yeah, I mean, safe is the word, isn't it? It's all anyone wants anymore, especially with publishers who, as we all know, have no soul. I would rather play a bad game that was bad because it tried new things that didn't work than a mediocre sort of, yeah, the mediocre Space Marine, big cock, shooty. Because at least the bad games try to advance things. At least they're trying to do something new. It didn't work, but they, something like Mirror's Edge, that tried to do something new. But ultimately failed because, again, kind of don't give a shit about any of the characters. And jumping, well, it's basically trying parkour in a first-person perspective. It's like trying to do it while wearing a big piece of cardboard over your face with the hole cut out.
It's yeah, I think, you know, when the Wii first came out, right, with Wii Sports, it's amazing, and it's still probably my favorite game. That kind of spawned a whole bunch of safe copies. You know, just if you're gonna make a Wii game, let's make it all mini games. No matter what, just mini games. Let's do 7 mini games that people buy, and they do, and they don't like it, and then it gathers dust, and that's once again all the same kind of thing. And it really frustrates me when I see people in a game store and they pick up these really terrible, awful mini game compilations, and like, man, there's some really good stuff on the Wii. You got to search for it, but don't just. They're buying the safe bets as well. That kind of thing.
The thing with the motion sensors is that it's a big draw for the gimmick crowd. Like all the people who aren't too interested in gaming, but they hear about an interesting concept like motion controls of the Wii, and think, oh, I've got to check that out. And they'll play it for like 20 minutes and let it gather dust. But again, the gathered dust, Wii still counts in the sales figures.
Angry about stuff.
It seems like it's possible that the reason why the games industry is creatively appealing is perhaps the opposite to the reason why it's financially appealing. Perhaps those who are looking at it